In the early 1st century, uneducated fishermen scattered into the shadows of Jerusalem. Their leader was executed, and they fled from the authorities in a state of absolute documented terror. But within weeks, that cowardice vanished. These same men began marching into the public square, willingly and even joyfully inviting their own executions. They weren't dying for a new set of moral aphorisms or a private philosophy. Their accounts focus entirely on an observable physical event. They claimed they had seen Jesus of Nazareth alive after his burial. To understand why this was so explosive, you must see the Roman world as it was. It was fiercely pluralistic. The gods were civic mascots, useful for social glue, but kept at a safe distance. The apostles' historical claim completely subverted that entire religious system. By insisting on a living Lord who governed all of history, they directly threatened the divine status of the Roman state. The Christian movement began as an aggressive reaction to a historical claim. For the early church, faith was a dangerous public assertion of fact. It stood as the polar opposite of a passive internal feeling. We see the friction of this movement most clearly in Athens. This was the cultural and intellectual center of the ancient world, built upon the conviction that the spiritual and the material were forever separate. The Greek philosophical mindset viewed the material world with contempt. They treated the gods as abstract metaphysical concepts, distant entities that had no business interacting with the dirt of human history. Paul stood on the Areopagus, this jagged, rocky outcrop, and directly confronted the Athenian elite with a theological concept they found preposterous. He introduced a sovereign historical creator who actively directs human timelines and requires more than a statue of gold or stone. He spoke of a God who had physically visited the material world. Paul used physical history to dismantle the Greek concept of passive spirituality. He forced the city to choose between a comfortable internal myth and a demanding external reality. But what was the internal mechanism that allowed this belief to survive such violent opposition? The answer lies in the specific way the early church described the power inside them. In the original Greek texts, writers frequently use the word pistis. While usually translated as faith, the grammar reveals a distinction. We often say faith in Jesus, implying a human act. But earliest manuscripts read the faith of Jesus, an external power dwelling within. This faith of Jesus is described as a seed planted through a covenant, a total surrender of one's own agenda. It effectively displaces human pride, which the apostles viewed as a worship of self that prevents the supernatural engine from starting. This internal displacement is what fueled their outward resolve. It is the mechanic behind the miracles, the healings, and the fact that these men no longer feared the Roman state. For the first Christians, faith was an active, supernatural trust. It resulted in physical action and stood in direct opposition to a simple mental acknowledgement of a deity. During the Enlightenment, modern philosophers sought to separate this conviction from the realm of historical fact and reason. Immanuel Kant sealed it off in a vault he called the noumenal, a category for private, subjective beliefs that were inaccessible to the inquiring mind. This created the modern delusion of faith. Today, people often act as passive customers, seeking a lifestyle preference, rather than disciples wielding an active power. By removing faith from the sphere of history, the modern world stripped it of its primary function, the ability to actually alter the human soul. Firmly, if the resurrection was a real event, then treating faith as a private comfort or a useful myth is logically impossible. It demands a response in the public world. True faith is a living, supernatural engine. The historical event has already occurred, leaving us with the mystery of how we will choose to respond to it.